You might think that an advanced AI such as ChatGPT can easily handle conversations in any language, but well, things aren't so straightforward. We work with businesses every day, and we've seen some weird, funny, and sometimes potentially harmful stuff. My name is Bartek, I'm part of the team here at quickchat.ai, and today we'll talk about the limitations of using tools like OpenAI's ChatGPT, why things are the way they are, and what can you do about it, especially if you run a business. So let's imagine you're running an e-commerce business. It's 2023 and using AI chatbots and assistants, for example, for automating customer support, is getting more and more common. You know, there's little chats in the bottom right of the website that are sometimes actually useful. Yeah, they're probably using artificial intelligence, or they hired a mechanical Turk. As your business grows and leaps into new international markets, you may want to alleviate the workload of your customer support team and have an AI assistant that's a linguistic chameleon, able to speak in multiple languages like a native speaker. Large language models, LLMs, support multiple languages, meaning the products that are based on them have picked up on a variety of human languages. However, the performance of generative models deteriorates quickly in languages other than English. LLMs may struggle when tasked with lower resource languages, which have a smaller pool of data to draw from. You may ask, why is that? Let's ask my colleague Zuza, who's an AI researcher and works with these systems every day.
Good question. That's mainly because models behind tools like ChatGPT were trained on a ton of internet data, which has way more content in English compared to other languages. The reason for this is deeply rooted in how LLMs work. The bigger the pool of data that they're trained on, the better the model can analyze this data and recognize patterns in language use. For example, it learns how certain words are commonly used in different contexts, the way sentences are structured, and how meanings change with different word combinations. It can also impact the style and tone of the responses. In cases where a language has limited online data available, the model may adopt a tone which reflects this data. For instance, if Swahili data is scarce and the only substantial source available online was a collection of terms of service documents, the model's outputs in Swahili might mirror this former style. This could result in responses that sound overly formal or technical, even in casual, everyday contexts. Such a tone mismatch can be confusing for native speakers. Let's now move on to another aspect, the speed of responses, the need for speed. Everybody wants that, right? But if we want to speak about speed, we must first understand how large language models interpret and process text. So let's take a moment to explore it. LLMs, in order to accurately understand language, use tokenization, which is the process of breaking down text into subword segments, the so-called tokens, for processing. To illustrate these mystical tokens, let's take for example the word tokenization. It can be broken down into token, is, and ation. The words are split this way so they can become building blocks that can be reused and build other words. We can reuse the building blocks of tokenization to build, for example, tokens, realize, and nation. Why tokenize at all? Because there are too many words in existence and too few letters to efficiently present the language to the language model. The usefulness of the subword parts is determined by how frequently they occur in the training data and enables building more efficient representations, creating fewer but highly reusable tokens for constructing words, which reduces the need for creating additional tokens. As we said before, the majority of LLM's training data is in English, and as a result, an English sentence generally comprises fewer tokens than a sentence in German, for example. In the end, processing a German sentence conveying the same meaning as an English sentence requires more time due to the increased number of tokens used. So how does that affect speed? The more tokens the model has to process in reading and generating the response, the slower the pace of the conversation. This means that, on average, conversations in languages other than English will take longer.
You may still argue, though, the conversational AI systems such as ChatGPT are doing fine, and you'll probably be right. For a personal user engaging in basic conversation with AI system in their native language, the quality and speed are often sufficient for continued use. Even when mistakes arise, for example, the agent makes a grammatical error, they can be easily overlooked because nothing of significance depends on it. But it becomes a hurdle when stakes are higher and LLMs are directly interacting with your clients or users. Would you risk your customers using the model, knowing that it might perform worse in some languages than others, increase the response time, or confuse your customers? So what can you do about it? Like seasoned Googlers know, it's usually better to search in English and later just translate whatever you need to your native language. And you probably do the same when using ChatGPT. Have you noticed somehow better, more natural, and less generic responses compared to the other languages? If you want to generate 10 headlines for your new blog post, you'll probably find that it's more efficient to do it in English and then later translate them, taking into consideration your unique business and cultural context. Let's now put it in the context of LLMs and try to do something similar here. We could use ChatGPT in the language where we are guaranteed to have the most coverage, which is English. Later, insert an additional layer in the form of a specialized translation models between the actual LLM and the user utilizing the AI system. That way, we can ensure reliability for all languages and gain more control over translations. Another advantage relates to what really makes your custom AI assistant stand out from a general purpose tool like ChatGPT, the specific information you provide them through a knowledge base. Your company's knowledge base could be any kind of document regarding your product or service that you can make the LLM use, and thanks to that, provide it with your specific context and knowledge. For example, you can use your product description as a knowledge base, making sure an AI's assistant gives you correct and specific information when asked. Here's the tricky part. Your assistant needs to handle multiple languages. The information you feed it also has to be in those languages. So imagine your business is in 20 different countries, each with its own language. That means you would need 20 separate knowledge bases. Well, that's a big ask and doesn't really scale well in practice. We feel you, and adopting a different approach in which you use an additional translation layer allows you to provide a knowledge base only in one language, but you'll still sound like a pro in every other language that you run your business in. It's quite cool, and I wish it got easier from there, but if you're building AI solution yourself, you'll still need to remember a few things. Let me use an example. Let's take the heavy industry and English to Polish translation. Polish energy experts use the term kocioł to refer to what in English is a burner, a critical component in their energy systems. However, a direct translation might mistakenly render kocioł as oven in English, which is a common translation, but incorrect in the specific context, and will make you look like a newbie. Since these models are trained on broad datasets that do not pick up on a specialized or industry-specific language, they can struggle with accurately translating terms that have different meanings in different contexts. The model might correctly translate kocioł as oven in culinary context, but it fails to recognize that in the context of energy systems, the correct translation should be burner. Great, let's take another less heavy example. In Germany, there's a museum called Kupferstichkabinet, pardon my German, the literal translation of which could be copper engraving cabinet, but even the museum itself translates it as a museum of prints and drawings. You definitely use your own jargon, as every business and industry does, and we build features like custom translations to give you control over this aspect. The second thing is ensuring that your brand's unique elements, such as product names, taglines, sound natural and consistent no matter where in the world they heard. Let's take the example of Ford Fiesta to illustrate how machine translations might struggle with brand names, especially when they overlap with common words. So imagine you're translating a car review about the Ford Fiesta into Spanish, where fiesta means party or celebration. So AI systems that rely on general datasets might not recognize Fiesta as a car model name and instead translate it as a party. But I have a confession to make. I use the example of a well-known brand to make it easy to understand, but AI, surprise surprise, is smart and will probably translate popular brand names correctly. But what about 99% of companies whose name is not that popular and doesn't appear in training datasets very often? Like our company, or maybe the company you work at? Well, the odds are not on our side. While LLMs are whiz at many tasks, they're not always polyglots, especially in the business world. You need to account for the varying speed and quality of responses when using these AI systems in different languages. Lower reliability, longer response time, and higher cost due to the increased number of tokens used in less popular languages of multilingual handling may get your company in trouble. You need to be sure that the AI tools you use are correct every time and don't discourage, or in the best case, confuse your customers. Thanks for today's chat and see you somewhere on the internet.